Dance in the society was a way of behaving well and properly. So by dancing, the nobility or even the people from the country showed their kind of education in the village or in the ballroom at the court. I mean, it's an educational thing, which you had to able to do it. It was a must for somebody in the society in Western Europe to dance. How do you relate to ancient dance or to early dance is that for a lot of people the music is still in the air. It's a kind of general consciousness of the classical music, and if people dance on this kind of music, they don't revive this music, but for them the music is naturally. I mean, I see it also here. The 19th century music is a natural thing. It comes easily. Yeah, it's not something new, it's not something strange. Of course, the way they dance on it is new for most of the people, because we have been cut out of this dance history because the social condition isn't there anymore. People are individuals, and historical dance is not about individuals. It's about presenting themselves as a couple or as a group in the ballroom, and that's different, of course. I mean, and it's like I said already before in other interviews, it's for a lot of people today a surprise how fun it is and how nice it is to dance again together and not alone as an individual on your own without taking account of people around you, but that you have to dance in a kind of disciplined structure and take conscious of other people around you, and like being polite, which politeness is not a big issue anymore today. But in this kind of dances there is the discipline of knowing the dance and being polite to the other people without being too submissible. But and I think that a lot of people react to that today because it's another way of communicating. It's a kind of social behavior which we lost and finding back. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then once again, couples 1 and 3 in the middle, 2 and 4 are going to make the right hand turn. So the couples 1 and 3 go back to their place, but joining in the middle immediately to do the circle around the gentleman. So it has to look smooth, like in the films I will show you this afternoon. 5, 6, 7, and 8. The music is the dance, you know. I mean, if I talk about 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century, I mean, dance music is one of the most important music in all periods. Even a big composer like Bach or people like Vivaldi or Monteverdi, his best compositions are coming out of dance rhythms and dance tunes. And of course, they make it something much more complicated. You know, Bach has even if he's writing a very beautiful Bach cantata for the church, underneath you feel allemandes, you feel sarabandes, you feel minuets, you know, and although you don't dance it, it's always there. So I think dance music, I mean, that's the beginning, and everything, the choreography relates to the music. Although we know about the fact that some dancing master starts with the choreography and put the music on it later, but I thought, for me also as a dancer, the music is the inspiration. And the dance, it's not secondary, but it comes out of the music. Right foot. Chanter assemblé. If you want to, otherwise just walking. 1 and 3, right hands and in the middle.
For the historical dance, it's music, the basic. And we really need to know how to listen also to this music. It's not just the notes, it's just not the melody, and it's also not just the counting, because 15th century is a polyphony music, and for the dancer it's very difficult to know when to start the step or when to finish. So it's really very important education also how to listen to this kind of music. Renaissance is much easier than in 16th century, but also Baroque is so complex with the steps. So this was really growing together. Music and dance, historical, social dance, they're really together.
If you do historical dance, you have to master the technique of the period. Now the social or the dance technique, for instance in Baroque time, the level of the people is so high because they started at 6-7 years old practicing. And if you were a good dancer, because it's also relating to your talent and to your physical condition, you had to master so difficult steps and pirouettes that you almost had a level of a kind of ballet dancer of today. I mean, technically, yeah? So it means that especially in Baroque time and also here in 19th century, you have to have a good classical basis to master all the steps and the difficult technical steps. So that demands training, and it means that like myself, I'm doing like 5 epochs, centuries. So I count 5 years for each style to master the technique, and then to be able to make an interpretation of the dance. Yeah. Technique is my basis. If I only do technique, I don't dance. I mean, if I do the steps and I know the figures, that's actually my basis to think now how I'm going to perform. It's like a musician. You have your notes and you play it with your fingers on a violin, on a piano. But playing notes is not making music. Playing notes is playing notes. And of course you have to master all your finger settings on the piano, and you have to keep your violin straight. But then at a certain point you have to think is, how will I be musical? So where I'm going slower, where I'm going quicker, where I'm giving emphasizing things, you know, basic things. And that's the same thing in dancing. If I make a turn, I have to decide if I'm going to turn slow or I'm going to turn quick. Yeah? If I'm going with a lot of energy in a step or I reduce my energy. And you only can start thinking about that when you master the technique. If you're still wobbly about your feet or you don't know where to go, there's no way of making an interpretation.
With the historical movement and beautiful music around, we could express ourselves, our soul, our body, and maybe also behaving. And it's also very beautiful that you could get idea what was the style. And all this complexity all together, I think it's really wonderful.
If I study historical dance from the 15th century until the 19th century, you see some technical developments. You know, you have a kind of basic step which is developing from the 15th century into the 19th century. And it's like, we call it a double step, and then you go on the, and it gets a little bit more technical, more difficult. I mean, speaking of the technical point of view, it doesn't mean that in the 15th century there were no technical difficulties, because actually the main point in historical dance is the style, the way you perform it. Because every dance from the 15th and 19th century, even if it's a social dance, it's always a presentation towards a public. You're not dancing for yourself. Even if you're dancing like here in the quadrilles, I mean, you're dancing for other couples, and you have to maintain a perfect style, a perfect behavior. And I think that's one of the main points of these historical dances we reconstruct, is it's theatrical at the same time, because you have to behave in the social and cultural context of the period, yeah, and so you have to maintain polite, because it's made for polite society, yeah, and the better your dance, the more respect you will gain from the public around you who's sitting in the ballroom. It's not a public like in a ballet paying $50 to see your dance, but it has the kind of same intention, that through your dancing you just tell the public or your friends that you're a good person. 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. And don't say when you have to start. The historical dance movement started like 30 years ago, and we're now on a point that real professional dancers get a certain interest in this material. They're not interested in it because they're not interested, but it's something they need to learn themselves and change their body to get into the real style. Of course, a professional dancer wants to earn money, and he has not 20 years' time to do that. But let's say that slowly a lot of professionals get really interested in it. And for instance, in France, there is this big movement in Baroque dance. So if you want to see Baroque dance, for instance, go to France. There you have wonderful companies who have enough work to pay the dancers and to continue working on this kind of dance. For other countries, there are small groups, which are more amateur groups, who are performing Renaissance dance, but that's not really on a professional level. So if you want to see really good historical dance, I mean, turn to France for Baroque dance, and yeah, well, you just Google on internet to see where they are performing. And let's say for Renaissance dancing or 19th century dancing, I mean, it's still developing. There's some groups doing it, but we still wait for a kind of good level to be performed.
In my point of view, because I'm not a professional dancer, I'm more music teacher, musicologist, and I'm really trying here in Slovenia to prove this knowledge of the history, you know, because this kind of, if we are doing research of our history, it's need that we also know how they were dancing here. Also to find who were dancing masters here, because they were here and they were working, you know, with the people. So for me, it's this very important that the people who are now teaching the schools have the right material, the right knowledge, and they could use it. So my purpose is, and I think here I could do even little more, like till now, after 10 years, that I'm trying to get the steps, historical steps, and the music in the way how these people who doesn't have the knowledge, like, you know, background, music background, they could understand and could follow and get it, and then they could do also with the children in the schools. I think this is the basic purpose of my work here in historical dance fields.
It's quite quick.
We are also very, very happy to have this course in Slovenia. Also the people from abroad, from America, from California, people from Germany, and also from Croatia. So We are really some kind of big family, historical dance family.
As an education, I started as an actor, and I rolled into dancing by accident. Yeah, and I liked it so much that I kept rolling. For me, the nice thing is that with historical dance, I'm an actor. I feel myself an actor. Although I try to dance it as good as possible, I'm not replaying the history, but I'm acting a role as a person in a kind of cultural, social context. In 19th century, I will dance differently than in 16th century because, I mean, the technique is also very different. For me, it's theater. For me, dance is theater. And I don't make the difference. I mean, today you have to be a dancer, or today you're an actor, or today you're a singer. But if you see in the history, people working in the theater were dancers, singers, and actors at the same time. And I don't want to be glued to one of the three. I want to be all three. Yeah? And that makes the historical dance for me so complete, because I have to act, I have to sing, well, singing maybe lesser, but I have to act and dance at the same time. And that makes it, for me, very interesting. And of course, for me also, the historical research behind everything is making it extra. I mean, that's why I started, because I was very curious. Yeah, and I went to the Renaissance, and then I discovered Baroque, and then the 19th century, and I love 19th century music because it's romantic. And I think a lot of people go to historical dance with a romantic feeling also about the dresses and the beautiful palaces, and that's okay. I mean, why shouldn't we be romantic? It's hard enough to live in the 20th or the 21st century that we cannot retreat in some kind of nice feeling instead of all the aggressivity which is coming from all sides when you're going out.
I will not say like Livan that it's my way of living, because it's very difficult here. The situation is like this, that you cannot earn enough money that you could survive with historical dance. So really I'm doing with my pleasure, with just for feel myself more fulfilled. And because I think it's something that I have to do. Somebody is asking me that I have to do so, to develop these fields here in Slovenia. And the main reason is also because I was very, very lucky also in the beginning. With historical dance, I really found the right people, nice people. So this gave me another energy to do even more work, because it's a lot of work of doing research, not just reading the sources, but also then putting together with the music, listen other people, going to the other courses, how they are doing. So it's really a lot of work, but I'm doing this with a pleasure.